The physical, chemical, and neurological differences between men and women can't be denied, and these differences are the qualities that each sex finds unique, captivating, and attractive about each other. But by trying to be more like each other in search of some distorted sense of equality, we're diminishing our need for each other, our want for each other, and our attraction to each other.
Hi there, I'm Tad Horning.
And I'm Kimberly Horning.
Welcome to Great Marriage, Great Life TV, where we offer uncommon insights into how to rejuicify your relationship and make your marriage great again.
And before we get started, please help us save marriage and make it great again by subscribing to our channel and sharing our content.
Okay, anybody who's been interested in high performance, whether it be in sports, business, or personal development, is familiar with terms like the zone. You know, being in the zone or being in flow.
Anyone who performs at a high level at anything knows that there are times when you are at your best. You know, everything just comes easier. You're kind of dialed in, and your mind, body, and spirit just seem to be in alignment. And when this happens, you're more productive, you're more efficient, you're more creative, and you're usually happier.
In other words, you're at the top of your game. And when you're at the top of your game, life is just better. It's more fulfilling. It's more meaningful because you're at your best. And when you're at your best, it's like being supercharged.
Whether you're an artist, a doctor, a musician, or a mother, your ability to perform at a high level and contribute is amplified. Every person we love watching, whether it be a musical performer, an athlete, or a dancer, they're usually performing in the zone. They've learned to access their zone of optimal performance. That's what makes them so great. That's why we love shows like America's Got Talent so much, because we see what seems like ordinary human beings doing extraordinary things.
Now the question is there a zone of optimal performance for marriage? And if there is, how do we get into it? Well, we just want to warn you right now that our answer to this question is very exclusionary and not in conformance to popular trends today. It's like this. If someone asked you what the primary consideration is for someone to be really good at basketball, the first thing out of most people's mouth would be that you need to be tall, right? Is that exclusionary? Absolutely. Is it true? Well, not completely. But does being tall provide an advantage in basketball? Yes. So you could then say that being tall is an optimal trait for basketball. So if you could choose between being short or tall as a basketball player, which would you choose? Now, if as a basketball player you could choose between having small hands or large hands, which would you choose? Now, I think it would be large hands. So as you see, as a basketball player, there are optimal conditions for being able to perform at the highest level. Does this preclude anyone from playing basketball? No. But obviously it means that most people won't be able to play at the highest level.
So let's talk about marriage. There are infinite possibilities for who and how two people can be married. These days we have a full spectrum of possibilities, more than we could ever have imagined even 10 years ago. But just because something is possible doesn't mean that it's optimal and therefore desirable, right? I mean, for the sake of human rights, people should be able to do what they want. I'm sure we can agree on that. But what is missing in the discussion in the social and mainstream media is any reference to or discussion of what is optimal for humankind.
We're so blinded by the smoke of equal rights discussion that there's little to no discussion about what is actually best for young people and old alike to strive for. In other words, what circumstances will provide the optimal environment for the health and well-being of the individual, for the couple, their children, and ultimately their community and the world at large. So, what we want to discuss a little bit today is in the full spectrum of all possible marital arrangements between two people, what does an optimal arrangement look like and why should we strive for that? And as a second warning, this is going to be exclusionary. Just like identifying what an optimal diet looks like is exclusionary. It's the same with the relationship between a man and a woman, which leads us to the first component of an optimal marriage.
The first component is that the marriage is between a man and a woman. Again, this doesn't mean there aren't other possibilities, but we think it goes without saying that anything other than a man and a woman has an endless list of built-in challenges. But that's not our focus today. We will continue based upon the assumption that you are at least a somewhat traditional male or female in at least a somewhat traditional relationship. Fair enough? If you're not, then this video actually just simply isn't for you.
Now, we've been talking a lot lately about how America is being polarized by crazy social trends and how marriage is caught right in the middle. Now, these trends, the trends that affect marriage the most are feminism, political correctness, and a general move away from traditional roles. Now, marriage as we have known it is being systematically dismantled by dysfunctional notions of masculinity and femininity.
And this social confusion over men's and women's roles in relationships in the home and in the workplace has couples being depolarized. And this depolarization has taken us out of the zone. We're not in zone anymore as couples, and it's destroying our relationships. The dynamic between men and women has changed because our expectations from each other have shifted. In search of equality, we've begun blurring the lines between the sexes, and it has taken us out of the optimal performance zone. And in the process, we've traded the beautiful polarity between men and women for sameness. The physical, chemical, and neurological differences between men and women can't be denied, and these differences are the qualities that each sex finds unique, captivating, and attractive about each other. But by trying to be more like each other in search of some distorted sense of equality, we're diminishing our need for each other, our want for each other, and our attraction to each other.
So true. Now, this has caused a massive confusion as to what are optimal roles in intimate relationships. Now, I know this isn't a popular thing to say, but traditional roles in marriage make for happier couples. It's not a matter of equality or equal opportunity, it's just in the nature of things. Now, does this apply to all people? Of course not. But for the majority of heterosexual couples, it's true. It is more in men's nature to provide and to protect, while it's more in a woman's nature to teach, nurture, and inspire. And the sooner that we acknowledge and honor our energetic, hormonal, and neurological differences, the better. Now, we've got two stories that we want to share to illustrate the inherent differences between men and women. And I'll share the first one. Now, we were at a Tony Robbins event that had, I think, about 1,200 people in the audience, roughly 600 men and 600 women. Now, Tony wanted to demonstrate in crystal clarity the inherent built-in differences between men and women. And he asked the women in the audience to raise their hands if at any time in the last 30 days they had felt like their life was in danger. Well, approximately a third of the women in the room raised their hands. I mean, that would be about 200 women out of 600. He then asked the men how many of them felt that their lives were in danger in the last 30 days, and out of all of the 600, only about one raised their hand. Now, the point, if you didn't get it, is that there are built-in physiological differences between men and women that are undeniable. Now, Jordan Peterson likes to point out that if you want equality in the terms that most feminists are demanding, then we need to increase the number of women that are incarcerated. Because he says that 99% of all incarcerated people are men. Now, why do you think that is? Well, it's because men are more aggressive. Men are quicker to resort to violence. Men are more likely to take risk. Men fear less for their lives than women. They're more calculating, they're more focused, they're more cerebral.
Women, on the other hand, are naturally nurturing, intuitive, and less aggressive. Women are emotionally fluid with their minds, dancing seamlessly from one thought to the next without constraint. Their ability to feel deeply and have intuition about things gives them a holistic and integrative perspective on everything. And these are just some of the psychological differences. When we get into the differences in size, strength, endurance, and ability to endure harsh environments, we are very, very different. These are generalizations, of course, but generalizations are based on what is true for the majority.
So true. So true, especially with us. Now, these differences determine what roles are optimal, okay? What roles are optimal for men and women in life. This is, of course, also a generalization, and there will always be exceptions to the rule. But the thing is this, and that is that we need to start spending more time addressing what most people need and less time focusing on what the minority needs. Now, if we don't do this, it's the majority that will become marginalized instead of the minority.
It reminds me of a question Dr. Willard Harley frequently asks his audience at his seminars. Ladies, if you knew the day you got married, your husband didn't intend to financially support you, would you have married him anyway? Typically, not one woman will raise their hand. When the question is flipped and asked the men, all the men will raise their hand. Fundamental needs of a man are to provide, to protect, and to be their lady's hero. Women, on the other hand, need to know and feel cared for. They need a sense of safety and security from their man.
It reminds me of the feminist who demands equality in all things, right up to the point where the check comes at dinner. And then she gets upset if the guy doesn't pay, and she's like, he should pay because he's the guy. Freaking hilarious. The point is that we need to start acknowledging and honoring the inherent differences between men and women. And when we do this, we'll see God's grand design behind it all. Because we've been tampering with God's design by pretending that we should all be able to do things equally in our marriages, in our homes, and in our careers. Now, this isn't about equality. It's about what is optimal for a man and a woman, for a husband and a wife, for a family, for raising kids, for raising the future, and providing a healthy, functional, and pleasant environment for everyone to live in.
Women used to be perfectly happy and fulfilled being homemakers and raising the kids. Children grew up with stability, healthy meals on the table, and the influence of their parents. Now, nannies, daycare, preschool, teachers, endless after-school lessons, and soccer camps are raising our children. And women are often earning more than their husbands or have more prestigious jobs than they do. Is this a good thing? Absolutely, if your life is about paying for your big house and the BMWs in your driveway. But when both of you are equal breadwinners, both take care of household duties, and both participate equally in raising the kids, there's a consequence. There's nuclear fallout, so to speak. Are you experiencing equality? Probably. Are you in an optimal situation that serves you and your family at the highest level? Probably not.
It's not an optimal situation. Why? Because it depolarizes the couple. He becomes less man, and she becomes less woman. Now, when a woman is the primary earner for her family, it's usually very emasculating to her husband.
And conversely, when a man isn't the primary provider for his family, it's very defeminizing for the woman. This is because it's not in a woman's nature to provide and protect. Her nature is to nurture, coddle, and nest. And when her man isn't providing and protecting her, whether by her choice or not, the natural polarity between them is diminished. And consequently, her attraction for him is diminished. In other words, we're diminishing the power that we have to attract, magnetize, mesmerize, and addict our mate to us. Our power is in staying true to our core and exploiting what we are at our core, not wearing a mask that isn't us.
Folks, it's optimal to be complementary. It's optimal to have a defined playing field with rules and boundaries and clear goals.
And it's optimal to have clearly defined roles, and it's optimal to have opposing energies.
Now, this isn't to say that a woman can't be an attorney and a man can't be Mr. Mom. But just saying Mr. Mom doesn't ring true to me. It just doesn't sound right, but maybe that's just me. Now, here are the facts. When a woman spends the day in the operating room litigating a wrongful death case or even running a small business, and her husband has been doing the same thing, it's hard to maintain magnetism and attraction. Now, it's because they're doing too much of the same thing and they're expressing too much of the same energy. They start to lose their unique distinction, and then there becomes too much duplicity, right? And not enough contrast. And not only does this negatively impact the polarity between the couple, it confuses our kids. I mean, they lose the benefit of seeing a masculine and feminine people personified in their parents.
That's right. And when they see that it's not working out for you, instead of making the distinction that it's your egalitarianism that's not working, they think that it's marriage that isn't working. You know the stereotypes we used to have of male doctors with female nurses or male pilots with female stewardesses on their arms? Well, these stereotypes demonstrated healthy polarity between the sexes. It's not that a woman can't be a doctor or an airline pilot. You just have to know that as a doctor or an airline pilot, you are less attractive to a masculine man. This is because a masculine man wants a woman with feminine energy who he senses needs him for protection and security. That's his reason for being alive. The last thing a man wants is a woman who he can't be a hero for. And ladies, if you're completely honest with yourselves, just like the statistics shared by Dr. Harley, women naturally want to be protected and taken care of. This doesn't diminish you in any way, shape, or form. It's in our femininity that we wield our greatest power. So how do we get back into the power zone of an optimal relationship?
Well, first, men, you need to step up to the plate and start being men again. And there's two primary ways you can do this. First, we need to start focusing our energies on the responsibilities that come with being a husband and a father. And to me, that means that our life revolves around building financial security for our household, meeting the needs of our ladies at a high level, and being the father that our kids deserve. And underlying all of that, we are living congruent with a deeper life purpose that drives us to be the best husband, father, and provider that we can be. Now, that doesn't leave a lot of time or energy for things like golfing with our buddies or going on fishing trips or watching Monday Night Football, right? The second thing that guys need to do to be the men that their ladies can look up to and feel safe with is to get control of their emotions. Now, women by nature are emotional roller coasters, emotional wildfires. That's the way they are. But when we allow ourselves to react emotionally in response to their fears and their upsets and their blow-ups, we diminish their sense of security with us. They don't feel safe with us anymore because we're too much like them. They need us to stand strong in the face of their storms. Now, it reminds me of a scene from 6 Days and 7 Nights. You know the movie with Harrison Ford and Anne Heche? Well, you remember the movie. Harrison Ford's character, he crash lands an airplane on a deserted island with Anne Heche's character on board. Now, while they're fighting for survival and getting chased by pirates, he breaks down and he shares his feelings. Here's the dialogue.
She says, "I'm so scared."
He says, "If it makes you feel any better, I'm a little scared myself."
She says, "No, that doesn't make me feel better at all."
He says, "I thought that's what women wanted. Men who aren't afraid to cry, who are in touch with their feminine side."
She says, "Not when they're being chased by pirates. They like the mean and armed."
Ladies and gentlemen, when the wolf is at the door, and believe me it is, we need a united front when it comes to protecting ourselves and our families. We need to be dovetailing our natural energies, gifts, and proclivities to optimize our effectiveness.
Which leads me to share what women need to be doing to get the relationship back to the optimal zone. First, men need your vulnerability. As much as you want him to know that you can take care of yourself and that you don't need him, that attitude, that energy is repelling for him. It saps his very reason for living, and that is to be your hero. If you're a professional or someone that contributes significantly to the household income, you need to take conscious steps to nurturing your femininity, both in how you conduct yourself and how you present yourself. Femininity is an energy, and you'll know you're in touch with it when you feel sensitive and vulnerable, or when you'd rather read a cookbook than a real estate contract. Dressing feminine really helps me to feel feminine. Just as there's optimal or appropriate attire for the office, there's optimal attire for at home. And it isn't baggy sweatpants and your hair in a scarf. In fact, one of most men's top 5 needs is for them to find their wife attractive. And for some men, that might be their wives in cutoff shorts and their hair down. For others, a sundress and a fresh pedicure. At the end of the day, do your best to know what your man likes and incorporate it as best you can. Personal care might not be high on your priority list, but But just remember, you set a certain standard when you were dating, and whatever that was, you should strive to at least keep it up, if not improve it from there. What we are suggesting is that more traditional roles support marriage and the family unit than what is the trend today.
You know, it's just that statistically and anecdotally, marriages with traditional roles are happier and they produce more functional, well-adjusted kids.
Of course, this isn't always true, but it seems to be true more often than not. And of course, there are many more contributing factors to a couple's happiness than their polarity and whether she works or not. We just want you to know that generally speaking, there's an optimal zone for couples to be in, and that zone tends to be where couples are assuming more traditional roles in their relationship, nurturing their respective masculine or feminine essences, and honoring their sex by not trying to be the same. The most important thing you can do is to hold this awareness in your consciousness as a new frame of reference. You can use it to influence how you divide responsibilities, how much commitment you give to things outside your relationship, and how egalitarianism could be eroding your attraction for one another.
So the message that we want you to get today is that when you are nurturing your masculine and your feminine attributes, and you're honoring your opposing energies by recognizing them as a gift, you'll experience the true power that the union of a man and a woman have. Now, there is nothing more powerful than a masculine man and a feminine woman, honoring, exemplifying, and dovetailing their energies, trying to share and share alike responsibilities like is being promoted today. It only burdens and weakens you as a couple. But if you can get into the zone of tackling life by doing what you both do best, then and only then you've got a good thing going. Now, if this message doesn't resonate with you, I get it. Maybe it doesn't apply to you at all, but you'll know if it does. I mean, you'll be able to feel it right here in your gut. Well, that's it for today, folks. If you found value in this message, please subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and share this video with a friend. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next time.
And in the meantime, live fully, love passionately, and act like the person who has the marriage they want.